Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's speed reading crash course. My name is Cynthia. Happy to see you in the audience today. Thank you for once again joining our speed reading crash course. This is actually what Iris Reading is most known for. It's this particular workshop. We've taught this workshop in over 100 cities around the world, and I have to remember to ask how close to 200 we are, because I have a feeling we're inching closer and closer there. So in the meantime, if you want to let us know in the comment section on the right, or in the chat section on the right, is it my right, your left, where you're joining us from, and if this is the first time you have ever taken a workshop with us in the past. So as we mentioned, we have taught these in over 100 cities around the world, but we still have a lot more to go. So we've taught these in Spanish, I believe in French and Mandarin. I think we have taught them in German as well. So we are slowly growing the list of languages that we have translated this material into. And again, if maybe you feel like someone else in your life, whether that is a classmate, a colleague, would benefit from this, then definitely feel free to share our channel. We would appreciate that. And we'll also share our social media. So we are on social media right now. Thankfully, we are on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, as you can see. And we also have a Facebook group called Book Lovers Assemble. So if you want to maybe talk to us a little bit or talk to the other members, I think we're inching on 1,000 members in that group. If you want to share, what you're reading, what you like about the book, what you don't like about the book, if you want to go on a rant about how the book you purchased, you thought it was going to be one thing, but it wasn't, we want to hear about it. We want to hear about it, and that's really a space for us to share. We do a lot of reading also here at Iris Reading. If you ever sit in on one of the webinars that the founder and CEO Paul Nowak teaches, you'll notice he has these enormous stacks of books behind him, and I think that's just a tasting of the books that he's read over the years. So we thought it'd make a cool backdrop. There are many, many, many other books that he has read, and which is one of the reasons why we thought it was a good idea to start a book club. So with that, let's get into today's presentation. Here are a few things that we will cover. First being how fast you currently read. Okay, so this is a speed reading workshop, which means that we want to get faster, but in order to assess if it's working or not, we need to see how fast you're reading first. Okay, so we'll start out with that. We'll talk about improving your focus while reading. We have a lot of distractions nowadays, unfortunately, especially I know I am guilty of being a little too addicted to the TikTok, for example. Y'all just want to run to TikTok when you have something to do, right? It's incredibly addicting and can really mess with your focus while reading. So we'll talk about a simple method that can help you there. We'll talk about some ways to improve your comprehension. So it's not just a matter of reading quickly. We also want you to understand quickly as well. We'll talk about reading faster on the computer screen. So if we are maybe reading a little more on the computer screen versus reading on pen, not pen and paper, but on paper with books, then that might be a struggle as well. A lot of us had to transition during COVID when we had assignments, when we had classes online. We could no longer go in person, which means that we had to learn how to be a little better readers on the computer screen. So we will talk about something that we have created, not me, but the team here at Iris Reading, an application that can help you read faster on the computer screen, because again, we know that there are lots of distractions online as well. And we'll talk about building up speed with practice. So we do believe, obviously, in practice, but strategic practice at that. And you'll notice that in our memory workshop that we offer we dive into, yes, how repetitions are important, but not in the way that most people actually think. So we're going to do some repetitions here. We're going to do some drills that can help train you to read faster. We hope you find them helpful. And our final bullet point for today will be some strategies for reading complex information. So if you're maybe reading something for fun, as I resort to reading Lord of the Rings, and then maybe you're reading something for school, like a psychology textbook, what strategies would you use for one versus what strategies would you use for the other, right? You would hope that you have specific strategies for your psych textbook, because again, this is not that Lord of the Rings isn't important, but you probably won't have to take a test on it, right? So we want to make sure that you have a strategy down packed when reading that technical material, that dense material, and we'll talk about that closer to the end of today's presentation. Now, we have three excuse me, areas of focus here at Iris Reading. First one being obviously speed. We want everyone who takes our class to read faster. Okay, we want you to be a productive reader. The second area of focus is comprehension. So as we mentioned, it's not just about reading quickly, it's about understanding as well. Okay, if you're doing one and not the other, then you're not reading. That's something else. Okay, and our final point is retention. Okay, we won't talk about retention today, but we will talk about, as we said, speed and comprehension. Now, if you are interested in taking a memory workshop, please check out our website, irisreading.com. We have a few on there, and they're taught actually by our founder and CEO, Paul Nowak. So you're more than welcome to check that out if you are maybe struggling with memory as a student. Now, most of us, we read something like this with the little green ball that's jumping across the screen, right? Or if you're reading in Arabic, then the ball's going the other way. But the point is the ball is jumping from word to word, right? That's how we live kindergarten reading. But if we think about when the last time we learned how to read was, it actually was probably when we were in kindergarten. And so that means that we may be doing some things right now that we probably don't have to do anymore. We learn how to read, right? We use certain methods while learning how to read, and then we somehow get stuck using those same methods forever. And we've all gotten better at reading, right? I always use the illustration of riding a bike, right? You first learn how to ride a bike with training wheels, and you're learning how to balance yourself, you're learning how the pedals work, you're learning how the brakes work, right? And with time, you get better at riding. But also with time, you want to go faster, and there's only so fast you can go with training wheels, so you have to take them off, right? Same thing with these reading habits. So we've acquired vocabulary over the years. We've gotten good at reading. I mean, if you were able to find today's live, if you were able to read through the 2 emails that I unfortunately had to send, and you were able to click on the link, then your reading skills are great, which means you probably are not at kindergarten level anymore, which also means that we should assess some of these old reading habits and make sure you're not using them. And if you are, how to either minimize or completely eliminate them. So the first is fixation, okay? Fixation. So this reading habit is pretty much fixating on each individual word in the sentence, okay? And we say that this is an old reading habit because you are actually capable of reading groups of words. You probably have just never noticed it before. If you're driving on the expressway or on the normal street, you probably encountered either street signs or billboards. And the funny thing about these is that there's not a lot of words on these billboards, right? There's maybe 4, 5, 6. They're actually designed keeping in mind that you're probably driving while reading this, so they want to make the message short and sweet and easy to pick up. And most of us, if you think about it, or later on today when you're commuting, if you think about looking at that sign, you're pretty much able to pick it up in less than 2 seconds, maybe 3 seconds, no problem. So that proves to us that we are able to pick up groups of words. It's just maybe something that we're not used to. Okay, we're used to only reading one word at a time, and that makes sense because when we first learned how to read, our teacher wanted to make sure we knew every letter of every word. And so she would ask us to read one word at a time. But that was a long time ago. And so we want to train you to pick up groups of words, not so much like 15, 20 words at a time, but we'll just start with 2 or 3. Okay, 2 or 3 as you're reading. And we've actually, as we mentioned, developed an application that can help you not only when reading online, but also with breaking this old reading habit of fixation. And I'll share that in just a moment. Now, the second old reading habit is regression. And the sad thing about regression is that the principle of rereading, because that is what regression means. It's essentially just going back and rereading. That principle is not necessarily incorrect. The problem is that we sometimes apply it to areas it should not be applied to. So, for example, if we're reading one sentence and it doesn't make sense, maybe our first inclination will be to read it again, right? And maybe you think back to when you were in school and your teacher would say, well, if you didn't understand it, just go back and read it again. So that's kind of programmed into us, but it's a glitchy type of feature. And so we don't necessarily want to read the same sentence over and over, because what can you potentially get out of reading the same sentence over and over? It's like I share, so sometimes I'll make like a vegetable juice in the morning, and it's like the worst part of the day for me. And once you put, if you have a juicer, whether you have one of those electrical ones or you have one of the like the manual ones, once you put, like, let's say a carrot or a celery or some beet in there and it juices it, you can't take that pulp and rejuice it. There's nothing left in the vegetable to extract. So we don't, you know, we don't want to keep going over the same thing over and over. It doesn't make sense. So let's think about this, and if we have to read again, let's use some strategy. We always share how when you're watching something, maybe the opening scene of a movie, like if you had no context with the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, if you had never seen the older ones and you saw this one, maybe it was a little hard to understand, right? But if you're maybe watching an opening scene to a movie and someone is running and they're crying and they're scared and you have no idea what's happening, do you pause it and rewind it and rewatch it because you don't get it? No. We keep watching because we know at some point the producer is going to show us with this movie what's happening, why it's happening, why that happened, right? And so that style that many producers use, many authors use it as well. And so if we don't get the one sentence, that's okay. We want you to try to finish reading the paragraph before you then decide if you actually have to read this all over again. Okay, but I know, and I'm a student too, and I don't think I've shared, I'm going after a PhD in educational psychology. It feels like I've been in school for like 100 years, but the point is I have a lot of reading to do as well, and occasionally, if I'm not paying attention, I can catch myself reading the same sentence over and over. So it's definitely something that was programmed into me. I can, you know, I would imagine many as well, but we want to deprogram that and use some strategy with reading. And of course, obviously, if you read through the whole paragraph and it doesn't make sense, well, then absolutely go back and reread. But if we're just talking about one sentence, let's hold off reading it again. Now, the third old reading habit is subvocalization, and that is the little voice inside of your head, not your conscience, but the other voice, okay, when you're reading something and it's pretty much repeating it back to you, all right? So have you ever noticed that you do hear a voice inside of your head while you're reading? Interesting, right? So before we get into why this slows you down and more importantly, how it slows you down, we're going to do our very first speed test, okay? So go ahead and at irisreading.com/handouts, you're going to type that into your browser. You don't have to. If you want to read it off of my screen, you can, just in case you're trying to maximize your screen. But if for some reason you're not able to read it off of my screen, maybe blow up the window here on YouTube so that you can see it on full screen. It might be a little pixelated, so that's why we're saying if you want to access that link, again, it's irisreading.com/handouts. We're going to read for 1 minute, and I want to assess your reading speed. Now, if you want to share this with me, you can. This is live. I am here. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. Okay, so we're going to read this article, The Age of Distraction by Leo Babauta. I do not want anyone reading ahead, so we're going to change that for just a second. And we're going to read, as we said, for 1 minute. You'll notice there are some numbers on the right-hand side right here. So we are going to, as I said, read for a minute. I'm going to interrupt you, and you will calculate your reading speed. Now, how do we do that? Let's say you finish reading right here where it says only. Okay, so if you made it here and it says only, and at the end of the line it was 177 words, you're obviously not going to count 177. You would subtract however many words, so this would be 3 from your total here, and that would be your reading speed. Okay, so right now what we'll do, we'll read for 1 minute. I will disable my webcam. I don't want to distract anybody. And we are reading, again, the article is called The Age of Distraction by Leo Babauta. I am going to pull up my timer, and I will interrupt you once the time is up. Here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. And stop. Very good. That was 1 minute. We'll go ahead and calculate our speed. Okay. And if you want to share what your speed is, you're more than welcome to share it. But no pressure. I know the first time I took a speed reading class, I bombed it completely. And there are no exams. We just read for a minute, but I was reading way, way, way below the average reading speed. Okay, English isn't my first language, so yeah, that might have been a reason. There were other reasons, but that was one. And so again, go ahead and calculate that speed. Now you might be wondering, well, I'll share after I find out what the average reading speed is, please and thank you, and that's okay. So average reading speed is 150 to 250 words per minute. Okay, that's the average, but keep in mind, we mentioned about English proficiency. So if you maybe are not speaking, you haven't been speaking English for very long, you're still learning the language, then this wouldn't apply to you. Okay, so if again you're still learning vocabulary, it wouldn't make sense. But if you are fairly competent in the language, you know how to read, you know how to talk, it's something you're comfortable with, then this is the average. Okay, also keep in mind, if you have attended university or you're taking college classes, then this is actually the average, 200 to 300 words per minute. Now, if you're not in this average, which I would imagine some of us are not, and that's okay, not a problem. That's why we're here today. And more importantly, if you are above this average, that's great. Doesn't mean we need to stop making progress, though. We want to keep on going. Okay, so some of the staff here at Iris Reading, they're reading between 400 and 500, and like last time I checked, someone was like at 550 words per minute. So we want to keep building. Unfortunately, time doesn't seem to be on our side these days. So the faster we can read, obviously the better. Okay, now let's oh, and one more thing. If we're reading on the computer screen, the average is about 136 words per minute. Something to keep in mind though, we don't learn how to read on the computer screen, which is one of the reasons why this is a little slower. We learn how to read on paper. I would imagine most of us learn how to read either on a chalkboard, right? Or on paper with like a Hooked on Phonics workbook or something like that. Maybe this new generation of kids is learning how to read on iPads and, you know, laptops and all that, but we don't. And that's one of the reasons scientifically why we do tend to read slightly slower than average on the computer screen. Now let's get into self-vocalization, which we said is the little voice inside of your head, not your conscience, as you are reading. Now, something to keep in mind with this, whether you hear the words in your head or you're forming the shapes of the word with your mouth, both are a form of self-vocalization, okay? And the problem with this is that you're really only going as fast as you can talk. When you hear the words or you form the shapes of the words with your mouth, you're only going as fast as you can talk. Now, that would be a good thing if the average talking speed was faster than the average reading speed, but it isn't. It's the same. And so now we're in a bit of a pickle because we are in the business of trying to get you to read faster. So I can't change your average talking speed. I mean, some of us maybe talk a little faster than others. I know in Spanish there are certain countries that resort to speaking faster, Puerto Rico being one of them. It's known to speak a little faster than other Spanish speakers. But in English, we can't really do much about changing that average talking speed. But I will give you the secret to the sauce, as they say. If you go to our website, irisreading.com, our tagline gives you the answer. It gives you the secret, okay? And if you check that out in the future, you don't have to do it now. But we are, as I said, Iris Reading, and our tagline is reading at the speed of thought, which means we do not want you to read as fast as you can talk. We want you to read as fast as you can think. Okay? On average, our talking speed is pretty slow in comparison to our thinking speed. Okay? Now, if we think about how fast we think, which is kind of weird, but let's think about thinking. You can think about a lot of things really fast, right? Like if I was to just tell you, I don't know, what comes to mind when you think of things that are red or purple or blue? You might have some things that just start flying into your brain right now, really fast. Now, how long is it going to take you to actually vocalize that? It's not as fast, right? It's going to take a minute to kind of put it into a sentence for one, because most of us are not linear thinkers, but it's usually not as fast. So how then do we get you to read as fast as you can think? Well, one of the things we need to do first is like push that voice somewhere in the back of your head where it's not bothering anyone. And I always share, I don't know if maybe you can relate to this, hopefully you can, but maybe we have a mom or a dad or a sibling or somebody who is like, they have this thing, whether it's like right here, right now where I'm teaching, I have a family member that just refuses to get rid of this like 1970s like record player / cassette player. It's like a really old boombox-ish type of thing, and we haven't used it for years, right? And it's huge, it's in the way, but they refuse to get rid of it. So what did I do? I went and I pushed it into a closet far away where it doesn't bother anybody. So that's what we need to do with this voice that we have inside of our head. You got to put it somewhere where it's not going to bother anybody, where hopefully we'll all forget it's even there, right? And a lot of people claim, oh, well, you know, the only way to read faster is to shut that voice off. But none of us, we're not like C3PO. We can't just, you know, turn the feature. We cannot turn it off. We don't have a button anywhere to turn anything off. So to do this, we have to push ourselves in a way where, for example, we push ourselves to read 20% faster, and it's a little above what you're comfortable reading, and it's really not giving that voice inside of your head the opportunity to catch up with you. So it falls way, way behind, which is a good thing. Something else that can help you is putting on some kind of background sound or some background music. Okay, this is helpful. But not anything that's going to distract you, right? Not anything that's going to make you want to dance. That would be counterproductive. But again, something that'll drown out the sound and not affect you as you're reading. So whether that is sitting at Starbucks and listening to the espresso machine go off or hearing other people talk, you know, all that noise can help drown out that sound so that you, again, don't have that voice that is dominating as you are thinking, okay, or as you are reading, I'm sorry. So those were 3 ways to minimize or completely eliminate the old reading habits. But what happens when we're looking to concentrate? How do we do that? Well, using your hand or pen as a guide is helpful, okay? And it's a cost-effective method. I have, because we're in the middle right now of trying to film some more content for TikTok, and I have been queuing up a few items that I've found either on Amazon or just like on Google Marketplace of tools that claim to help people to pay attention, whether they're like, I found these things that you put on your fingers and like it's like a pacer or something. I have to test it out. You'll see it on our TikTok soon, so don't forget to check that out. But using your hand or pen as a guide is cost effective, and more importantly, it actually works. It's backed by science. And I always share. I don't know how big you can see me, but you see I have a green wall behind me. Maybe you can see this shelf right here. I have a Super Mario Deluxe cube here. So what would happen if something were to start like crawling down the wall behind me? Let's hope that that doesn't happen. That just made me itchy. But you would stop paying attention to me, right? You would start paying attention to wherever's moving behind me. And that's because our eyes are attracted to movement. So some people think that's a bad thing, but we think that you should definitely use that to your advantage. Okay, so if your eyes are attracted to movement, what better than to put something in front of them that is forcing them to look down at the paper or at the book or at whatever it is you're reading and not to what is happening around you, whether it's, you know, just hope there's nothing back there. Okay, so very easy. You might have seen some people that do this. I generally, when reading in Arabic, will use my hand or finger as a guide. I just find it to be helpful. Not so much. I haven't really done it in English. I've never, you know, tried, I guess you can say. But I know when reading, specifically in Arabic, I have seen it to be helpful. And I think culturally, that's something that is taught as well. But again, something to keep in mind. And it definitely helps me pay attention because we know there are so many distractions out there. Now, this is nice. This is a great suggestion, but it doesn't really help when you're reading either on your phone or you're reading on a laptop or an iPad, especially if it's touchscreen, right? So I am going to share, let me get rid of this. I am going to share an application that was created by the team here at Iris Reading, and it's called, really quickly, you can see on the screen, Accelerator. Now, here is the tool. It is called, again, Accelerator. You just type in accelerator.com in your browser and I'll show you what happens. This is not like you don't have to pay or anything. It's free, okay? And then you'll notice there's some text in the box right here. So what we would do is we would erase everything in the box. We would go to an article we're reading. We're going to use this article from The Onion, which is also based out of Chicago. And we're going to just drop that there. We'll hit begin. And notice I just dropped 166 words. And it's preset to go 150 words per minute, okay? Now, I want to show you the settings really quickly here. It's preset to go at a speed. You don't have to keep it at that. You can bump it up 250, 350, 550, whatever it is that you want. But seeing this might be the first time that a lot of us are using this, we're going to keep it at just the just a basic level. You can change and do 2, 3, 4 words at a time. You can change the window width, the window height, the font size, the font color, the background color. I mean, bedazzle and work whatever works best for your eyeballs, seeing that we're all different. But please make sure that this is checked off at all times. And that is starting the new chunks at ends of sentences and paragraphs. Okay, so we're gonna hit save. Again, you can come back to this app. It's just accelerator.com. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to read through this article. And the nice thing, again, is that it actually mimics using your hand or finger as a guide. So when you're using your hand or finger as a guide, you have to, you know, your eyes are following whatever it is that's happening. Now, we're not doing that on the computer screen, but this will actually show you 2, 3 words at a time. And you have to pay attention, because if you don't, you're going to have to restart the program all over again. Okay, so today's article is taken from The Onion, and The Onion, as we said, is also based out of Chicago, and their tagline is America's finest news source. Okay, so I'm not saying anything about the news or anything like that, but if you can maybe tell from the title, what they write is meant to be, you know, it's purely comedic, so it's not meant to be taken serious. Okay. So we are going to read through this article. Snowstorm in Chicago delays hundreds of morning murders. We are based, as we said, out of Chicago, so we like to joke around about Chicago. Okay, so here we go. We're going to read through this article using Accelerator, 166 words going at 150 words per minute. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay. Pretty heavy article, right? Also, considering if you are from Chicago, you find a little bit of truth in this, right? So again, this is from The Onion, and the point of this all is to showcase Accelerator. Okay, so we're not saying you need to do this all the time, but for example, I mentioned how I'm a student and I have quite a few things that I have to read through that are in PDF format. They're emailed to me, or I'm downloading them from my portal for school. And so let's be honest, I am not going to print out something that is like 45 pages long. You know, if I'm just not, like, with paying for school, I refuse to spend any more. So I'm just going to have to tough it out and read it online. And I know that personally that's a struggle. So using Accelerator, when I copy and paste what I have from either my textbook or anything that I have to read online, I put it on here, and it really does help me pay attention. So I recommend, if you're having a tough time paying attention when reading, give it a go. It is a great tool to use. Again, you don't have to use it all the time, but it's something, you know, it's a nice tool to have on hand in case of emergencies. So again, that is accelerator.com. Now, how do we get better at anything? Practice, right? And we are big basketball fans here at Irish Reading. Okay, I think all of the staff, I think the founder, he played basketball, his brothers played basketball. I like watching it. I've never tried. I think that I would break a few fingers. But the point is, practice makes perfect, right? Whether it's a hobby, whether it's a sport, practice is Very important. And you might have thought, well, I don't know how do you practice reading faster? Well, we'll show you right now. So what we're going to do is purposely go faster than you normally read, okay? So this means that we're going to be doing something that kind of looks like this. So if you can see me on the screen, we are going to be skimming, and we'll use our hand or finger as a guide because we're very big about using what we're learning in class. You'll notice that if you take our memory techniques workshop, we want to practice what we learn as soon as possible, because unfortunately you do forget rather quickly. So we're going to just use some of these methods, some of these things we've talked about now. We want to keep it fresh in your mind and as alive as long as possible. So remember the article, The Age of Distraction by Leo Babauta. Okay, we read it for 1 minute. Now what we're going to do is, hopefully you're remembering where you finished reading. I'm going to give you 40 seconds to get through 1 minute of reading. Okay, 40 seconds to get through a minute of reading. So remember, we're using our hand or finger as a guide. So you're going to push yourself. And again, we're not reading right now. We're literally just training our eyes to see the words faster. Okay, because most people are like, well, I have to learn how to read faster and that's it. Yes, that's true, but we don't want to skip the steps to actually be able to do this, right? It's not as automatic as just read faster. First, I have to train your eyes to see the words faster, right? And then we can incorporate actually reading. Okay, so there's no comprehension in these drills right now. We're only focused on speed. So I'm giving you 40 seconds to get through a minute of reading. Hopefully, we are all able to see where we finished reading. All right. The first time we did this reading for 1 minute. So again, this is The Age of Distraction by Leo Babauta. I am getting my timer ready to go here. Let me just pop this open. 40 seconds. Here we go. And again, don't forget to use your hand or finger as a guide. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. And stop. Very good. So that was a 40-second drill. Now, did you make it? Let me know in the chat or in the comments if you made it, if you didn't make it. Okay. This is meant to be challenging. So if you felt like, I barely made it, that's a good thing. We want to keep doing that. So what we're going to do is every time we do the drill, we're going to spice it up by taking some time away. Okay, so we're going to do the same drill. Go back to the top of the page. I am now going to give you 35 seconds to get through a minute of reading. Okay, 35 seconds to get through a minute of reading. Now, again, we're using our hand or finger as a guide if, that's something that you found helpful to you. And remember, we're not reading. We are only practicing seeing the words quickly on the page, okay? Here we go, 35 seconds. Are you ready? Start your engines. 3, 2, 1, go. "35 seconds. Very good. Did you make it? If you made it, good job. If you didn't, that's okay. We're going to keep practicing. Don't get discouraged if you're not making it. That is okay. We're still making progress, and I will explain to you how in a moment, okay? 30 seconds. We're doing the exact same thing. Back to the top of the page. If you need to stretch or something, make sure you're sitting comfortable in your chair. All right, here we go. 30 seconds to get through a minute of reading, all the way to the top, and we're literally doing this line, 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 line. It's just my coordination is not very good here, but you understand, right? Here we go. 30 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and a half, go. And stop. Very good. That was 30 seconds. If you made it, very good. If you didn't, that's okay. We're going to spice things up now because you might be thinking 25 seconds is impossible. Well, we're going to change it up. I'm going to give you a minute and 30 seconds to get from the top to the bottom. Okay, minute and 30 from the top all the way to the bottom. So you'll notice it's 581 words. Oh yeah, you can do it. Don't think you can't. You can definitely do it. All right. Here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. All right, that was a minute and 30. How do you feel? And here's a fun fact, scientifically proven, when you rub your eyes, it's actually seen to relieve some stress. So obviously if you're able to, because there are certain medical conditions where you should not be rubbing your eyes, but if you have no restrictions, feel free to do that. If you're a little stressed out about these drills, okay, take a breather, relax. This is not supposed to be stressful, okay? And our final drill, we're going to do a minute and 15 to go from the top to the bottom. Same thing, okay? Here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. stop. That was our final drill, 1:15. Woo, feels like we did a workout, didn't we? So good job. All is good. All right, now we're gonna go back to normal reading. And we're gonna see if these drills helped us out. Before I explain, we're gonna test this out and see how our reading speed is right now. So you're gonna go back to that irisreading.com/handouts link. You're gonna look for speed test number 2, okay? And that one is called How Distractions Hurt Creativity. Okay, so pop that up and don't read ahead. Let me get my timer here. And we're gonna just read for 1 minute like we did in the beginning. I will disable my webcam and I'll turn off my mic. I don't want to distract anybody. So giving everyone a moment to locate the doc. Again, it's at irisreading.com/handouts and that's at speed test 2. You can also read it off of my screen if you'd like. Here we go. 3, 2, and we're doing just a minute of reading, okay? A minute of normal reading. 3, 2, 1. Go. And stop. That was our 1 minute. What do you all think? Have we made some progress from the first time we read? Now, compare the second reading speed to your first reading speed. So if we're maybe seeing that the second one is even slightly higher than the first one, even so much as 2 or 3 words, that's a good thing. That's exactly what we want to see. So you get the success, baby. Even if you didn't make improvements, those were a lot of drills to do in the morning, right? So let's get into how these speed drills actually work. We do a lot of driving here at Iris Reading, and we have found that when we're driving for a long distance, driving long distances, I'm sorry, and maybe over a period of 3 or 4 hours, you're going at, let's say, like 60 or 70 miles an hour. What happens when you get off on the normal road or the normal street? What happens? We want to go just as fast on the street, right? Where there's stop signs and stoplights, and we shouldn't because there's people walking, right? It's not the same as driving on the expressway. But you want to just, you want to vroom vroom, and that's the same way how these drills work. Okay, your eyes, they want to go faster. They now have tasted what speed is when reading or when looking at words, and they want to fly through the text. So we want to continue to practice these drills. We did 5 of them, like 5 minutes. And if you did see improvements, just imagine how many or how much your improvement can grow if you were to dedicate, let's say, 10 minutes a day to this. Okay, now we'll get into improving comprehension because reading obviously ties in comprehension. It's very important. And so we are using another driving analogy here, which is of slowing down and speeding up. So if we were driving down, we don't have mountains or hills like this in the whole state of Illinois. It's pretty flat. We do in that park, that national park that's up in somewhere in Wisconsin. I think that's the closest thing I've seen to, with mountains. But the point is, if you were driving down this, and I've never driven down a hill, but I can tell you, I know for sure I wouldn't be going more than 10 miles an hour because you have to be careful with the curves, right? And so that same strategy of slowing down in certain areas and speeding up in other areas, you can use it with reading. Okay, so if we're reading, let's say we received this article in class, we have to read all the way through. What if we were to just be a little more analytical about those first sentences? And keep in mind, when I say slow down and speed up, I don't mean read slowly, I just mean pay a little more attention to the first sentence. Pay attention to everything, but just be a little more analytical about that first sentence. Now, we don't actually have time to read through all of these first sentences in this article, but if you're just catching a few words in the sentences as I'm scrolling through, you see India, you might have seen education, Second World War. So we've read the title, obviously, so we have a pretty good idea of what this article will discuss. So changing that speed does force us to pay attention. And more importantly, it introduces a very important principle here at Iris Reading, which is of inspecting what you read before you read it. Now, reading the first sentences of each paragraph is a good way. It's like an appetizer to, it helps you see what the chef's skills are, right? And to hopefully expect a good meal after this appetizer. So reading those first sentences is a nice taste of what to expect. And this is a tool we want to use when we are, again, looking to acquire more strategies for reading this complex information, whether you're going to nursing school, med school, law school, engineering school, any school really. Remember how we said in the beginning, the strategies you use for reading something that is, not for college, not for high school, but more so for fun. You want to make sure you have a clear distinction between both. Okay, especially if there is a grade at stake or an exam that needs to be taken. So inspecting is really important. Okay, so we want to inspect, and when we're inspecting, we want to look for all of these things: intro, headings and subheadings, words in bold and or italics, the titles of charts, tables, and diagrams, the conclusion, as well as any questions that may have been published in that piece. Okay, so all of that you want to look for before you actually start to read. Some of us may be primed to read from beginning to end, right? Our teacher would say, never ever read ahead. But that's not good for our attention. That's not good to see what's happening next. That doesn't help us if we're trying to figure out if we're going to need some more coffee to read through this, or if we haven't, maybe we've had too much. We can't assess our surroundings. We don't know if we're in a good environment to read through this complicated material, if you don't have to pay attention, right? All of that factors in with inspecting. So we want to make note of this. And if we were to just quickly inspect this chapter out of a business textbook, so we just wanted to test it out with you all, just show you what it's supposed to look like when you're inspecting. So everything in the red box looks like the intro, so we would read through that. We see these vocabulary words, we see the headings, we see the references at the bottom, we see this table at the bottom right here. Okay, so that's something you want to make note of. Just the title, not the details inside the title. The headings, the let's see right here, the vocabulary words. So we kind of page through this and we don't see anything else that stands out. So then we're able to think based on everything that we have inspected up until now, is this something that needs to be read, or is this something that can wait until later? Okay, and so this is good for saving time. I don't know if I've shared, but my professor loves to send over things over the weekend, and it's like 9 emails. Like, this weekend he sent me only 4, which is like, read this, check this out, this is important. And after inspecting, only 1 of the 4 were actually, something that I needed for class. So keep that in mind. We don't have as much time as we wish we had. So inspecting can really help us. And if you then decide that something does need to be read, everything in the red box, you've already read it. So that intro, you're good. You were paying attention, you got it. So there's no reason for you to read it again. Okay, so you would start reading from that second page right there. So the IRIS method, we are IRIS Reading, and we actually have a 4-step process to better reading and better learning. So we've talked about inspecting, and then you decide if you're going to read something or not. Let's inspect something together right now. Okay, so we have another article, single tasking and productivity. I am going to highlight everything as if we're going to inspect it together. So you'll notice the introductory quote, the introductory paragraph, and all of the headings. Okay, so let's inspect this together. I'll give you about a minute to just read through everything in yellow, but don't read anything else, just what is in yellow. Go ahead and start. All right, very good. So we've inspected. Now we are going to finish reading the article. Okay, so I'm going to give you up to 4 minutes to finish reading it. You'll notice the timer going off in the bottom right-hand corner right here. So we have already read through a lot of this. We read through the intro, we read through the introductory quote. So now we are going to finish reading the article. Okay, we're going to finish reading it. So keep a note, make note of your final time because that will match up with a final speed. So if it takes you 1 minute and 30 seconds to finish reading the article, that means that your final speed for today would have been 561 words. Okay, so 4 minutes. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. And stop. Very good. Good job. If you want to let me know what your final speed is, did we notice some improvements? Our final speed, was it faster than the first one? And this is over a 60-minute workshop, so just imagine, for one, we do offer an advanced version of this class, a 90-minute, but also if we continue to practice, how much progress we can actually make. 10 minutes of drills is all we're asking for every day. Now, we didn't get into the other two steps in the IRIS method, which is inquire and store, but we'll substitute that as for speed drill. How to practice these speed drills? We want to see words at double the speed, which is what we talked about today. Okay, so if your final speed, let's say, was around 300 words a minute, we want you to practice at double that, which would be 600 words a minute. Okay, and if you don't know what that looks like, remember accelerator. So we would read through something first and then do the speed drill through what we just read in half the time at double the speed. Okay, so hopefully we're doing 10 minutes of drills every day. And if you want to send me emails or if you want to tag us on social media to track your progress, that would be great as well. We'd love to see. Again, the IRIS method, so we would inspect something before we would read it, we would time ourselves, we would maybe read for 20 minutes, make sure we're asking all the questions we need to ask, and then do a speed drill in half the time. So that would be a 10-minute speed drill. Or maybe you're reading for 12 minutes, so you do a 6-minute drill. Okay, do not forget about Accelerator. It's a great tool to use when you have to read things online, and we're not, like we said, we're not printing it out just because. So if we want to read it online and we still want to make sure we're maximizing our time, Accelerator is great for that. Okay, and there's your unofficial homework. Let's get through just a recap of everything we talked about for today. And I do have a discount code for you in the audience if you are interested. So we talked about how fast you currently read. We talked about improving your focus while reading, so using your hand or finger as a guide. Improving your comprehension. We read the first sentences of each paragraph. Reading faster on the computer screen with Accelerator. Building up speed with practice. We did all of the speed drills. And then strategies for reading complex information. So we really dove deep into the inspecting portion of our IRIS method. Please, and reading, so the IRIS, the inspecting and the reading portion of our IRIS method. Please check out our other workshops. We do discuss the other two steps, which are inquire and store. All right, so this is the end of our presentation. Thank you so much for coming. If you have any questions, or if you want to take one of the workshops on our website, and they're actually taught by the founder himself, Paul Nowak, you can use the discount code BookLovers for 30% off. And you know, that's a nice sizable discount code. On top of that, if you would like the slides for today's presentation, go ahead and send me an email, cynthia@irisreading.com. And even if you'd like maybe the passages that we read, they're part of a book that the author Leo Babauta has allowed us to share. So if you'd like a copy of those, please send me an email as well, cynthia@irisreading.com. So that is pretty much it. If you enjoyed the content, please subscribe to our channel. Please check us out on social media. Please reach out to us, and we hope to see you in a future workshop. Thanks, everyone.